Quite the show for you tonight. Now, Dr. Donald Low, you saw some video of him there. I knew him. He was a kind, compassionate, humble man who, during the SARS crisis, well, he was a national hero. He really was. A truly great man. He's just died, of course, of a brain tumor, and the loss is beyond calculation. In a video interview made shortly before his passing, he wondered, what is the end going to look like? That's what worries me most, he said. And thus, he reopened the debate around euthanasia.
Why make people suffer for no reason when there's an alternative? Making your own destination, deciding on your own outcome, deciding when you're going to die. And I think what surprised me the most is how the objection to it, the inability to do it in Canada, that there is no way in Canada, no place in Canada where you can have support to have dying with dignity.
It's compelling, it really is. Now, Conservative MP Stephen Fletcher, in a wheelchair, and a fine example of overcoming handicap, has broken with his party's line and agreed with Dr. Low that we do indeed have to discuss all of this. Good Lord, if anyone is qualified and entitled to do so, it's him, I agree. Then Liberal MPP Deborah Matthews, who is dumb and disappointing even by politician standards, chimed in to cheer for a euthanasia debate. The first two people are to be listened to. The third is to be mocked as the fool she is, and a fool playing politics with life and death. Look, I suppose I'm one of the lucky ones. So far, I haven't had to face these challenges directly. But my mum did die from Alzheimer's, and I saw her wither away from a tough, loving, wonderful woman to a broken shell. It was more difficult than I can ever say, but look, it was still her. She was still there. Nobody approaching death should experience pain, and nobody need do so. All physical pain can be controlled, you know, but insufficient time and money is spent training doctors and nurses to deal with end-of-life issues. Listen to the new Australian Prime Minister, Tony Abbott, arguably the best political leader in the world right now.
I think we should be slow to think that our wisdom is so much deeper than that of every previous generation that now we want to offer euthanasia to people at the very time when we have more capacity to relieve pain than ever before.
It's quite the point he made, isn't it? The notion that a person who feels they want to die can make an objective, informed decision about whether to live or die is frankly absurd. Think about this. In reality, they are the least and last qualified people because they are, so terrified and agonized that they want to die. Any of us have experienced any sort of pain, severe pain or nausea. We know it's difficult to see beyond the immediate need to be free of distress. But the answer is not to help someone die, but help them to live. Knock on elderly and ill people, even when not in pain, really make truly independent decisions. The media tells them that only the young and sexy really matter. Their families often put them in institutions and then wonder why they feel rejected. And a culture that once revered the aged as temples of wisdom now looks on them as slums of irrelevance. It is no accident that the most intimidated by and active against euthanasia are the disabled. While we boast equality, we violently discriminate against disability at the earliest opportunity by aborting babies that are considered to be imperfect. Imagine how a Down syndrome person feels, knowing that many desire a future society where they don't even exist. It's worth remembering that when in 1993 Robert Latimer, remember, killed his little girl Tracy, he claimed he was putting her out of her misery, when of course he was putting her out of his. But even the phrase likens this unique human made in the image of God to an animal. Well, the difference, I suppose, is that pigs, cows and baby seals attract celebrity support, whereas children with cerebral palsy, well, they don't, do they? Equally pernicious and more subtle is the idea that euthanasia would be rare and only at the request of a dying person. Well, as I mentioned earlier, the handicapped are some of the most vociferous opponents of euthanasia.
Woke up this morning not feeling too well. Went to see the doctor to head and said, if I was disabled as you, I know I'd rather be dead. So when they think you're better off dead, but they say it's your right to choose, that's when you start to get the euthanasia blues.
The truth is that there are myriad cases of abuse of what is already a murderous procedure wherever it is legal. In most of the regions where such killing is allowed, the boards of inquiry are composed of the very people who introduced the policies in the first place, which explains why there are so few prosecutions in cases of obvious crime. One particularly obnoxious episode involved a terminally ill but comfortable and well-adjusted woman in Holland who had visited her doctor in hospital for a checkup. He advised her to take advantage of the visit and stay overnight for some well-deserved respite. When the doctor did his rounds the following morning, the woman was dead, given lethal drugs by another medic who had assumed, this being the climate of Dutch healthcare, that the patient was in the hospital for termination. Now, remember, euthanasia ideologues believe that if a depressed teenager or healthy but troubled young adult wants to die, they should have the right to do so, and that the state has the duty to help them do so. The caricature of the desperate person eager to die and pleading with loved ones to stop the pain and hasten death that is inevitable, that is not typical. That's very unusual. Rest in peace, Dr. Lowe. I remember you fondly, but with all due respect, I think you were wrong.